Bupina kuphe emakhaya amadolobheni aseComplasta khona lapho ubukela khona SABC 1. Warm welcome to this week's edition of Yilungelo Lakho. It's your ride. Sindethela ke lihle lapha kumahamba phambili SABC 1 Mzansi for sure. Mina ke ngiSimphiwe Ncongwane. Ingcikithi yethu namhla indzaba ekubuyiselwa ke emuva kwebantu labangakasitholi ke sibonelo sabo sahulumende sema social relief grant njalo ngenyanga. Ingabe yini ke bangasitholi sibonelo sabo sa 350 rand? Kukhuluma kabanti ke ngendzaba ke asesimukele ke Nandi Mosia lovela SASSA, that's the South African Social Security Agency. Phindze sibe na Thandiwe Zulu lomele ke umbutho Black Sash. Ladies, a very good afternoon and a warm welcome.
Thank you so much.
Good to have you on the show. Ndacela ke make Zulu ukuthi ke what are your views in terms of extension ema social grants?
When the COVID, we used to call it the COVID grant, R350, when it was introduced. The reason was that people, at the time, lockdown, people had not had an opportunity to before COVID. Now, our view, then it was introduced. Kodwa ke ukuyifaka kwayo lokho akusuki ugqugquzela besingena kuko kokuthi ama grants at the current moment are targeted and are targeted certain people, 3 categories, a child, an older person and a disabled person. Okay. Now we have a huge number of people, 16 million people in our country who are unemployed. Manje labo bantu labo in terms of meeting their basic needs bathola ubunzima bokuthi bangakwazi ukuthi bafinyelele. So yafika into ye COVID ye 350. So that was one way yokuthi esiphe isikhala sokuthi ngempela people bahleli ebubheni and it's a huge number of people. So our view in terms of the extension is that we appreciate the extension, but our wish and our aspiration would this grant should be a permanent grant in terms of it being a basic income support for people that are between the ages of 18 and 59, and we're talking at the moment about outside of the net in terms of the statistics. We are talking about 8 million because 7.8 in terms of the previous stats that I looked at, 7.8 of the 16 million are in the system, but we also have the 2.8 that are outside of the net because of in the number when they apply. So Tina is Black Sash. Our view is that the grant should be permanent and it should be targeted at the moment with a long view of having it universal. Yes.
All right. Now, Nandi, I want you to pick up on that point that she made. They're calling lama grants abe permanent. And nale ngifuna ukuthi sikhulume ngale qualification criteria. Bobani ke laba eligible. Bayithole le grant. Is it the same criteria that was used during the COVID period?
Yes, more or less it was, but a bit of improvement was done on that. The grant, first of all, is for about from 18 up to the age of 55, reaching 60. Because when you are 16, then you fall into the social grant category.
Okay.
Fanele kube umuntu who's got no source of income. Awusebenzi, akhola uthola khona imali. Njengoba umama uZulu bekasashilo ukuthi i-grant ingene ngesikhathi la abantu abaningi balahlekelwe umsebenzi khona. During the COVID period, especially in lockdown, we saw even informal hawkers on the streets. They could not sell anything. So that's when the grant was introduced to government to say, uzosiza to alleviate that bit of pressure.
Okay.
So you must be between 18 and 59. You must have no source of income, meaning you must not be waiting for UIF because UIF still will reject you when we do our verification check to see who qualify or qualify. You must not be employed at all. There must be no source of income we've got a means test, the ceiling amount is 624. So if we go into all your accounts and check and see ukuthi kunemali engenayo into your account, as part of our verification, the grant will as well be rejected.
What if ngitfola ke i-grant yabantwana, i-child grant? Would I still qualify?
Yes, you would qualify, because remember, like usho rightfully, i-grant yabantwana leyana akusiye yakho, i-350 eyakho personally.
Okay.
So uzo qualify because leya yabantwana le engenayo yakho. But for instance, let's say you told a disability grant for yourself, you cannot toll a 350 in a disability, because that would be seen as double dipping. And again, you must not be in any state institution. Like we had cases that we had to interview of people whose relatives would apply for the Mbese jail. People like that do not qualify for a 350 grant, because the state is already taking care of those people in those particular institutions.
So nibona kanjani ke ukuthi ke umuntu lotsite ikhona imali lekayigadzile noma ke imali ka expectile ukuthi ingene, noma ke imali lekayitfola ka sengibekise nje kuneti tokfela maybe every month, every 2 months ngitfola imali tsite. Labo ke niyababuka yini labo?
Siyababuka, because masibheka ama-account wakho through i-Banking South Africa, senza ama-verifications kuwo wonke ama-account wakho. Khumbula mawuvula i-account wakho uyivula nge-ID number yakho namagama wakho. So masenze verification, it will be done anything esegameni lakho ukuthi issue ukuthi laphaya uThandi uMamthandi uNandi bekamnike 700 manje ngenyanga kaMay. So masenze verification kaMay, because i-350 grant is a monthly grant.
Yes.
I-verify month to month. So masibona ukuthi ngoMay umama umfakele 700 uNandi is above our ceiling amount 624, then we would decline based on that particular reason. Ukuthi ibuya kuphi, we don't go into that detail, but siyasho ukuthi ikhona i-income engenayo ku-account yakho. Mayingena ku-account yakho, it means ukuthi i-income ekuye yakho.
Lokusho vele nihlola ema-bank account ebantu?
Yes.
Okay.
Mawu-apply laphayana ikhona ama-declaration ashoyo ukuthi do you give us permission SASSA ukuthi sikwazi ukuthi sihlole yonke information osinike yona iyiqiniso. Uyavuma laphana mawenza application
against the ID number.
Yes.
Okay. So manje, what do you make of these calls ukuthi ke le grant vele it should be permanent going forward?
As a government, we would want to help people. I think as a government wabantu, even working for SASSA, we want to alleviate poverty by all means. But it does not take only a discussion between Tina Lana. The discussion goes further, where there's many more elements ekufanele zibhekwe umbuso ukuthi babone ukuthi can we afford this, up to how far. Asikwazi ukuthi singathi ebantwini it will be izoba permanent, izovuma ngayo singacheckanga emuva ukuthi ama implications azoba yini into the fiscus yayo yonke country futhi as well. But our main aim ukususa ukuhlupheka ebantwini by all means.
Okay. Now Mamzulu, yini ke tingcinamba as i-Black Sash lentibonile noma ke abantu lebadibene nato nathi observe ukuthi ke leyo village, these are barriers ukuthi ke abantu bayitfole le grant?
Maybe just ukuthi to come in, uSisinandi uqeda ukukhuluma nge-issue yaka government and the willingness to alleviate poverty.
Right.
However, in terms of, this is a human rights issue. It's a constitutional issue. And yes, our constitution talks about progressive realization of our rights. So each time these discussions happen, you would find a question, yaga affordability. One of the numbers are budgets that are allocated because of the issue of affordability, where the question is, can we afford to have this? Are we turning into a welfare state? And all of those types of questions. The question is, can we afford to have people sleeping without food? Can we afford to have, because that, as a result, would lead to people now wanting to commit crime and a whole lot of other things. And this is flying in the face of a very serious, raving issue, corruption, that is not being attended to. But when we are supposed to look at issues that speaks to a very basic human right in terms of meeting your basic needs, then we throw up the question of affordability. But we can't afford to have a society that is like hungry. The society, I mean, we saw looting, not to say that that is an excuse, but this is what leads to people to be in a state where it's unacceptable. And then in terms of part of it is number, it's for people to have access, because the only way, as opposed to the other grants, it's the exclusive use of technology where you can only apply online. And that becomes problematic because then you need to have a smartphone. Initially, you needed to have data in terms of application, but then SASSA, when you go into the SASSA website, you can access without data, so you would be able to apply. But the fact that I can only do it online, then it becomes a bit of a challenge. So again, in that regard, what we are looking at and as a recommendation was, let's have a hybrid system. When the whole system started, we used to have SMS, people could apply using USSD system. So in this regard, that was removed, and SMS, everybody is able to utilize the SMS. Even those that do not have smartphones, they would be able to access and be able to apply. That was removed. So we are saying there's exclusive technology online, and not all of us are savvy to be able to interact with the system. We do get people that would be, for a simple thing, check your status. And then they call us to say, now I'm here, how do I break through this and all that? So for us, it would be ideal if we have like various hybrid systems that would be able to have people to be unlike where we have just the exclusive online. You know,
we've touched on very important issues like my human rights. This is a very basic human right, and the issue of affordability. And but we're going to take a break now, and I want both of you since social grants, they are somewhat below inflation rate. Recipients grants, they are at the mercy of inflation rate. Is it enough? Please hold your thoughts. We'll continue our discussion after the break. Please do join us after this break. Leli, Yilungelo Lakho, masanyakata. Leli Yilungelo Lakho, it's your right. Sakumukela futhi ngembukele. Tincingo tethu setivuliwe ukuthi ke nawe ungaba ingcenye yenkulumo yethu namhla ungashada licingo khona manje ku 0117140669 noma ke 0117140670. The numbers are on your screens right now. You can also email your comments to consumer@sabc.co.za. Ungasifala futhi ku Facebook na ku Twitter. Now ladies, before we went to that ad break, ngikhulumeke kabanti ngenzaba ke inflation ukuthi ke lama social grants, they are below inflation ngoba ke siyathi ke ukuthi ke impilo nje generally seyimatima futhi ke seyidulile. The cost of petrol, the high cost of food, the cost of living generally seyidulile. Kepha ke 350 solo umenjalo ukuthi ke ndawucela nobabili ukuthi ke isithi fahla ukuthi, do you think it's sufficient?
As a government, this is the best that we can issue, and I think in the whole of Africa, South Africa might be the only country that provides this basic minimum for the unemployed and for the poor. And we see the need for this grant by the people who are queuing, because nobody would just queue for nothing if they did not really need the money. So as a government in South Africa, I think this is a good step taken towards eradicating poverty.
Okay. Now, Zulu, from an advocacy point of view, 350
No, definitely no. When you look at food poverty line, we're talking currently 663. For you to be able to get the bare minimum in terms of meeting your food poverty line, we are at 663. That is probably almost half. The 350 is almost half. So which means you are not even able to afford an array of basics as a person or sekaya who is a man that is supposed to provide, or who is a woman that is supposed to provide for your family, especially if you have children that are now outside of the system in terms of the general grant system. So really, that is not enough. What we are calling for is that the grant, in terms of its value, and when you in the light of the high food price hikes that we've seen, you have petrol going up, everything else goes up. And for you to be able, at the moment, for you to be able to afford a bread, a loaf of bread, that's quite a lot of, that's quite like I think it's about 15 rands, if I'm not mistaken. Now, if you bump that against the 350, it means people are being maintained. I don't know whether it was at 1 rand a day or something like that. Now, that one, I'm not going to be sticking very much to it. However, we are saying let it be above the food poverty line with a very long aspiration for it to be at least at the upper bound poverty line, which is your 1,417, for you to be able to actually have a decent life. It's not going to be like decent, but 350. I mean, when you look at it in bumping it against a number of other things, transport, if you get the 350, we would always be arguing in the sense that people are then able to get into some form of a transport and go look for umsebenzi. And you know, it gives that element of people being able to be mobile and trying to do. They would even utilize the amount to actually augment and try to initiate initiatives in terms of like baking of keke and go stand at the street. But now you look at 350. You won't even be able to bake a baguette 5 kg.
Sure.
So really, it is not enough. And when you look at issues where some other projects are being funded, but each time we talk about issues that pertains to human rights and poverty, we like I said earlier on, we raise issues which affordability. We raise quite a number of things, and I think I need to emphasize namhlanje ukuthi really to the powers that be, we cannot be, as a country that upholds human rights, be in a space where we allow people to go hungry. We cannot be. I mean, you have 8-point-something million that are outside of the net.
And speaking of that number, 8.6 million outside of the net, are you at all happy with the number of applicants compared to the number of the recipients?
You know, the system at the moment, in terms of the decision with regards to who qualifies, it's a very arbitrary decision-making system. Because if it says you declined, and then the reason cited is NSFAS. And yes, I may have applied for NSFAS. Yes, I may have qualified, but I may not have been able to access a score. But my name still hangs on NSFAS. And the verification process goes into a database to avoid double dipping. My name pops up there, and then it rejects me. And the system itself is not interactive in the sense that I immediately interact with the system to be able to say, to object or to raise a concern in terms of what is my current status, without necessarily one party deciding that you do not qualify now. And yet, in terms of my real status, I am not even on the system. I haven't even received that amount as a young person. The question, are you happy? Are we happy with the application as opposed to, you know, it's so painful to look at the charts, and you actually pick up that more than 500,000 of people that have applied. I'm talking like people that have qualifications. You're talking young people there who have qualifications, but there is no employment for them. And you are looking at those that would not necessarily have access, even in terms of the system itself. If I'm in the rural area, the system says you must have a smartphone. If I don't have the smartphone, then unfortunately, I cannot.
Okay.
And then some...
Please hold the thought. We need to take our first caller. And now because she touched on the issue of the efficacy and the effectiveness of the system. It's not interactive, but again, please hold the thought. Let's take our first call. Alex,
Yebo baba unjani?
Saphela kunjani mama?
Siyaphila.
Khuluma nathi.
Yebo baba, nginomntwana una 18 years. He's applied for SASSA le grant le yabantu abangasebenzi since last year. So outcome yakhona baqala bathi pending and then after that we must contact in post office and then kwi-post office sakhiwa ama-number ukuthi we must contact that number sifone saze sabeka phansi in a strange message angisayikhumbula i-message yakhona ukuthi ithini but we were referred ukuthi we must go to the post office i-post office yasireferela kuleyo number sifona every day there is no answer absolutely nothing can we get help
ayikho imali ekayitfolako on a monthly basis like NSFAS or any other source of income
lutho baba kunalutho alitholayo.
Okay, Sharon, thank you so much for your call. Ukhona ke Nandi from SASSA ke, she will definitely answer that.
Thank you so much. Sharon, here to what Thandiwe was saying in terms of the interactiveness of the system.
Yes.
When you apply on our system, in the very same system, you go in there to go and lodge an appeal. So, Jongbo apply and then you are unhappy with the outcome if it says you've got alternative means of income. You can go in there and appeal. It's done through the Department of Social Development, where they'll handle what you are saying in terms of saying, but I never got anything. You know, my name is only there because I had applied. And then in terms of Usis Sharon, they do have an opportunity to still go back to the system, the SRD system on the website, and change your form of payment. We find what
do you mean change your form of payment?
What the challenge that we find is that most of them at the bank. I can get my money into this bank account, and then they capture incorrect numbers. One digit out or your name captured incorrectly, the system would not verify it. It will fail verification.
Right.
Another thing that we find is umuntu this month because I got bank. Omunye amtshela ukuthi mina ngithola nge-cash send agijima abuyele system I change from a bank to cash send. So what that means is that we must still go back again and do a verification on what we had verified for a bank last month and we're ready to pay. But mawuhamba manje futhi uyoshintsha to say now I need a cash send, I don't want a bank. We'll have to go and do a re-verification on that foot. Sharon, I would advise ukuthi go into the system, change the form of payment. If bowungafakanga correct banking details, capture the correct banking details, or request to be paid through cash send, where you'd get an OTP number and withdraw your money from the banks as dealer nazo in terms of receiving your money cardless.
It's quite interesting, Gutsige. Not so many people know Gutsi there's an option of e-appeal. Gutsige, just take us through the process. What do you do?
Within the very same application system, srd.sassa.gov.za, as you move along the tabs, you find the tab application. Below that, you will find a tab of change of details. As you go along, there's another tab, ekhuluma appeal. It tells you that the appeal is administered by the Department of Social Development, because it's one of the things that we had seen with the previous issuance. We become the referee and the player as SASSA. You know, you apply to us and we are the ones that as well again deal with these appeals. So social development as the mother department would now take that role of assessing appeals to determine if a case like Thandiwe was saying, I did not receive anything, then they would ask questions, interact, and then give you an outcome based on that. Again, in terms of the appeal, we must remember that 350 is a monthly grant. I found a social grant where you are approved for 6 months or for 1 year for a disability, you know it will consistently pay for that period of time. The SRD is a monthly grant where we do monthly verifications. Yes, you don't have to apply monthly. Mau apply legai one, we will do our monthly verifications just to make sure there isn't that money that we spoke about earlier that went into your account which would render you not to qualify for that particular month.
So now my issues and that particular issue drags on for 2-3 months. Now say approve. Would I get about 350 for the past 3 months?
As I said, it's a monthly grant. You will have to appeal because let's say you checked March. You appealed March because you did not get it. You don't get April, you have to appeal April. And it's a monthly grant, so the appeal cannot drag longer in line with your waiting for the appeal outcome. We do acknowledge our appeal cases where our response time is not what we wish it to be, but we are working on improving it to make sure we get a shorter turnaround time in terms of responding.
Please, man. Hi, good rough, man. But let's leave it there for now. Let's take another commercial break. It's your right. Don't go away. Welcome back, everybody. Our participation lines are still open for you to take part in our discussion this afternoon. You can call us right here, right now. Share futhi licingo ke lapha e-studio ku-011 714 0669 noma ke ku-011 714 0670. I-email yethu ke consumer@sabc.co.za, or you can rather interact with us on our social media platforms. Let's take our next caller. Sinasibongile ula eduduza khona lapha eGauteng. Sakumule lihlelo nisabona.
Sawona buti.
Siyaphila kunjani mama?
Ngiyaphila buti.
Siphilile, khuluma nathi mama.
Ngithi abantwana bami abawu2 babhalisa igrant.
Yeah.
Babhalisile imali le yama 350 ne. Azange bayithola yaphinde yabhala. Solo mayivela iveza ukuthi approvile mara ayina date. Boy2.
Okay. All right, siyabonga kakhulu ke. Yeah, please continue watching SABC 1. Bakhona ke baka SASSA batakuchazela. Mam Nandi, ngicela ukuchazela ke Sibongile.
In terms of approved not paid, it's those cases mainly verification, because as SASSA we cannot institute a payment singakayenzi a payment verification. So Sibongile, what she should do is a check on her phone. Ama-date ukuthi ashintsha nini. I-350 grant, we avoid paying it masibhadala amanye ama-social grant, just to avoid clutter in malls, or because sonke sigcwala laphayana ukuyoshopha, especially at the end of the month. So mostly they would be paid after the payment cycle yama-normal grants.
Okay.
And then uthola ukuthi ama-systems in terms of ama-payment files, they are activated towards the end of the month to make sure by the second or third week payments ayaphuma. So if it is approved, kusho ukuthi uqualify usisi according to verification yethu, umele nje ukuthi amele i-outcome ezozayo imnika i-date payment ukuthi payment inini.
Okay. And then in terms of the appeal, ngoba sikhulumile phambilini nge-appeal, nangabe ke leyo issue leyo it drags on again, without 350 noma ke without thola ke imali etinyanga letimbili.
As I said, ukuthi i-350 grant is a monthly grant. So check for every month what went into your account. Noma bese sidelayile thina SASSA check maybe ama-account akho aka-April no May, uthole ukuthi check March, April, so I check sometime maybe later in April or in May. Would still go back to the records and see for that month that you applied for, what income went into your account.
Okay.
So that would be part of the verification. In those particular months where you bosebenza, kunala bosebenza khona na uthola imali or kanjani. So if verification, we are very focused when it comes to that. If verification this month, we'll look at information ya lenyanga leyo to see ukuthi we are qualified for lo nyanga or not.
Nangabe ke bengitfola ke lo 350 for quite a number of years or months, and then bese ngitfola ke piece job ya 3 months. Then it stops, obviously. Ngichubeke ngihole for lo 3 months. After those 3 months, can I go back and reapply?
Yes.
Okay.
What we encourage abantu ukuthi bayenze, as soon as uthola umsebenzi kuba ne-income, was the system in and cancel the grant. The very same system, that's why I was saying it's interactive. Maybe not up to a certain standard, but ikona interactive la uzoyakhona ukwazi ukuthi cancel my grant because ngithola umsebenzi for a particular period. Uphela umsebenzi after 3 months, uyabuya futhi uzo-apply, because what we do, we are just going to verify ukuthi ayikho income engenile ku-account yakho for that particular month, or apply leyon.
Okay. Mamzulu, ngicela ukuthi sikhulume kabanti ngendaba ye-appeals process. Ukuthi are you happy nge-appeals process and what goes into it? Ngoba ke khona ke labakhala ngekuthi ke ba-approviwe kepha ke imali kude.
We look, I think in all this discussion, what is coming, eqhamuka kakhulu i-communication.
Yes.
And education to people, because if people, knowledgeable people are able to interact with whatever systems, because they would know what is the next step. So a very big gap is the issue of communication, what to do, how to do it, when to do it. Now, in terms of the appeals, what we've picked up is people would appeal, and they have a 90-day period appeal, and they would comply and implement so that they don't get kicked out of the system. Okay. What is not happening, which is also a serious problem, is the providers also now adhering to the 90 days. We've seen appeals that are running for more than 90 days, for more than 3 months.
Yes.
Appeal. People, then that deters people kusho ukuthi iyaba-discourage abantu ukuthi ba-apply.
Bathatha ke tikwenete hoping ukuthi ke imali yakasasa iyeda and then
You see,
ingasaveli.
now in terms of balance, I think if you are putting the responsibility to the people who are supposed to be claiming their rights and they are complying, why is it that you are not adhering to your own rules and regulations? Because then in terms of what is the purpose of the grant? The purpose of the grant is for the basic needs. Now, if you say to me, appeal within 90 days, and I do that, and you take more than that to actually respond, you asked a very critical thing earlier, Uguti, once you've appealed, the decision, then the system, the verification process, maybe we need to, we made a mistake. This person actually was supposed to be in the system. Unfortunately, it's not retrospective.
Yes.
This goes back to the earlier point I raised in terms of the budgets. I think it's important that budgets, when they are allocated, now we're speaking to the powers that be, that those budgets be reviewed in terms of what is the reality on the ground. Because now we feel that the system is manipulated in such a manner that for a particular period, some people will fall off and there will not be any responsibility from the government and the state to actually pick up from there and then say, okay, here we made an error. And therefore, this person was not supposed to have been rejected. Now, we are correcting that. We are approving. Now, how do we then, because this person was in the same position at a point of application, same position at a point of decline, same position at a point of appeal, and the decision thereof. So what makes it, let's move forward, let's forget about what the error if it was an error.
Okay.
And I do.
We'll take our next call again. Sinasibongile mlaba lapha eSoweto sakumele enhleleni sawubona.
Yebo ninjani?
Siphilile kunjani mama?
Ngiyaphila.
Khuluma nathi mama, what's on your mind?
So ngikubuza apply last year azange beyingakhipha ama so manje yenza amama because
Your line is not the best mama. Sicela ukuthi ukhulumele etulo asikuva kahle.
Last year nje azange ithole ngiyabi
Awuzange uyithola.
Mama kodwa this year last month
unfortunately, we are struggling to hear you, but we'll certainly hope that the technicalities will be sorted by my colleagues. But Kwanyalo, as asibuyela ngasetitolo, please do join us after this break. Leli Yilungelo Lakho. Welcome back, everybody. Now, these are magic numbers, 011-714-0669 or 011-714-0670. Those are participation lines. Ukuthi ngawashayela icingo khona manje ukuvakalisa umbono wakho noma ke kubuta umbuto kunethini intetho namhla from the Black Sash kanye ke na SASSA. You can also email your thoughts to consumer@sabc.co.za or you can like our Facebook page or engage with us there. Before the break, besina sibongile mlaba ulapha eSoweto. Sibongile ke bakabuta ukuthi wa apply na wa approve but the whole year so le imali akayitholi. Ngicela ukuthi ke Nandi umchazele kabantu ukuthi ke yini lokuthi angayitholi imali yakhe the whole year.
Into bangela ukuthi most people bangayitholi imali yabo is because, like I said earlier, ba capture information yama banking details wrong. So makufanele ukubhadale i-verification ayidluli because of that particular banking detail. Another issue kuba ilabantu, especially laba bakudala, ilaba bebathola imali yabo post office.
Yes.
But manje, because the 350 does not pay at the post office anymore, sibacelile, there was an educational drive to say, please go and change and put in your bank account. Mawungena bank account, ask lapha systemini ukuthi can I get imali yami through cash send. So you choose a bank of your choice, la ufuna ukuthi uhambe uyothola cash send khona, and then we'll be able to pay out your money on that. We've seen quite a trench of people ababethola ama retrospective payment because they just went shintsha ama banking details wakho, fake account number, fanele ibe segameni lakho, anyeke ukuthi ngibhadale account number nika mama or ka baba. It must be in your own name, your own ID, because my sense of verification, as I'm saying, is a match. I'm a match is a dropper, but if it matches, then it will pay. But another option, now your bank account, you can opt for e-cash send. Then we can give your money through cardless service.
So, kule system kuyasho ukuthi bangidecline, like are the reasons stated?
Yes, there's several reasons which are there. Number one, it will be there's alternative form of income.
Okay.
Like we said, you've got an income in either of your bank accounts that exceeds 624.
Yeah.
That would cause you to be rejected. Or it's either you are employed, or like Sister Thandi had said earlier on, you're getting NSFAS. So there's different kinds of rejections that would be there on the system.
Okay. Magazuli, your thoughts?
Yeah, because there are reasons provided, but if I need to actually counter, there is no way I can do it.
Yeah.
And therefore, then it means you just appeal without having the opportunity to submit if there's anything that would actually say, look, alternative form of income, where and I don't have. And even then, we've had instances where money is deposited into that particular person. Like, for instance, ubaba wasekhaya, ushona ubaba or umama, somebody in the house uyashona. Lo muntu loyo ipolice yalo muntu or funeral police. We've had instances where monies would be deposited. They are meant for something else. This family is in a dire situation now. Somebody is dead. Money goes into your account when apply it, then the system rejects you without necessarily looking at why was that amount deposited. Yes, we still need to have systems that so that we don't get everybody and anybody gets into the system when they do not qualify. But I think the system is too harsh. There are instances where people would then lose out on what would be taking them monthly because of a 7,500 year funeral that they had to run that funeral. And you see, so I think it's also important to maybe the system, whilst they check all of those things through the verification process, that it enables a situation where you don't get disqualified unduly so. Just because you participate in some activity that, for me, that undue disqualification becomes problematic. It may be an administrative, sticky situation, but I think it's only fair that at least now, coming back to the interactive aspect of things, that immediately, then I'm able to say, immediately, to say, no, in actual fact, you disqualified me because of this, and unfortunately, this was the reason, and that we considered.
Okay.
But unfortunately, like I said earlier on, you appeal. Whatever has happened in the previous month, unfortunately, you out.
Okay.
Yes, so
Right.
that's a bit of a problem. There is an area, cases that are referred, and I think I wouldn't have done justice mangahamba ngakhuluma.
Yes.
Yes, you have people whose ID, you might have been a victim, fraud, or you might have been the perpetrator, fraud. Now, when you apply and the system picks that up, unfortunately, victims and perpetrators are put into one basket. Then you are expected you are referred. The case, the reason lapha is that he referred. Then there are processes that you need to follow if you are that particular case scenario. And the people that we've had interaction with would have followed the process, but that referred process takes forever for that case to be resolved. The same as appeals, the same as your pending. It takes forever. And this particular individual then sits in a situation where you don't have the social assistance, and because you were once a victim of, I know they check with the South African fraud, I can't remember the name of the organization where they submit the names, but what has been picked up is even if you were a victim, then you fall into the referred, and then it takes forever for that case to be referred, right. To be resolved. So I think it's very important again that aspect of the system be looked at and it be expedited in terms of the resolution thereof.
Okay. Asishiye lapho ke, let's take our next caller. Sina Khumbulani ukhona lapha eJozi. Sakumele ehlelweni sawubona.
Yebo sawubona.
Yebo kunjani baba?
Hayi siyaphila.
Khuluma nathi baba. What's on your mind?
Yeah. Oneka ekhaya online search. So when
Ay Khumbulani, we are really struggling to hear you. Asesiphinde zame futhi uzame ukukhulumela eTulu futhi. Uzame ukukhuluma kakhulu. All right, we seem to have lost Ukhumbulani lapha eJozi. We do apologize for that. But Nandi, ngicela ukuthi just before we get to the next point, sasalike sicala from scratch. Kuthi ke nangabe kunomlo omdzala ude i-smartphone cannot does not have access to the internet, kuthi apply online, what do we do? Where do we go?
Okay, so SASSA, with this application, there's different application channels. Yes, the grant is mainly online, application R350, because in our offices at SASSA, we do not administer the application R350. If you can't access your application online, which is free rated, like Mam Thandiwe Zulu, which you can go into the website and apply, no data, but you can be able to interact somewhat with the system. There is a WhatsApp line, which would be shown on the screen, apply for this particular grant. But I would like to say R350 grant started in 2020. And it was very difficult for everybody in the country. Government did not have a system, to even be outside because it was a lockdown. Yes. Quick, government came up with this system. It was not the best, but where we are as compared to where we're from, we've made strides. And as government, we do listen to our stakeholders. We meet Nabosis Thandi on a continual basis and take facts because they are on the ground as well. They pick up these things on the ground to say, here are the frustrations. And we improve on these elements moving forward. Right now, as I'm saying, the application is not as frustrating and as difficult as it was in June 2020. We have moved. We've made strides. We are taking note of what is said, and we go back as administrators and come up with ways to try and make sure things are simplified for the poor. They are poor already, it's frustrating. You don't need to have a system that seeks to further frustrate them. That is not our aim. Our aim is to make their life easy and make sure they are able to access our facilities. As USASA right now, we are working on a project of developing our kiosks in our offices where people can come and be able to access these online services, because we seek to grow in this online space as well, much as we've got the footprint on the ground, but we want to have multi-access channels for people to be able to access. So for now, good in office, apply apart from online application? R350, you can only apply for it online. Online, okay. But all other grants, you can still come to our offices. All right, all right. For now, let's take a final ad break, unfortunately, but stop in the spoon. Welcome back, and this is our very final segment. Saqhubeka futhi nenzaba yethu namhla ke usichazele ke Nandi from SASSA ke the process is you apply nabe ufuna apply lo 350 kuthi ke you have to go online or apply khona, and it's free, or alternatively you can use the WhatsApp line. I'm going to ask my colleagues to just bring the number up. It's an 082 number. Ungayisebenzisa ke lo number leyo ukuze ukuthi apply. And I want to talk more about the other option ngoba ke khona ke bantu abadzala bethe they got no access to internet, they got no access to smartphones, better kwana lo WhatsApp kuthi ke ingabe ema SMS wona, can't I apply using my SMS what is known as USSD?
Earlier on eqaleni ngike ngasho ngathi we need a hybrid system. This exclusive online is not working for many people, and especially when you go to the rural areas. And sometimes even in the urban areas. If I'm not techno-savvy, then there's a serious problem. Now, for instance, if you have to appeal or the changing of the banking details and what, there's a link that even the referred cases, they will send you a link. For you to be able to access and interact with the system, you need to have data. And data, we know data costs a lot of money. And now when you go to hybrid system, at some stage, SASSA was also in a process of having a kiosk in their offices.
Yes.
Where that project went, we're not sure. Maybe Nandi can respond to that.
Yeah.
And there was also, when the process started, USSD was there. USSD, you send an SMS, the SMS interacts with you, you are able to send and do, and it didn't come, it didn't come at an exuberant cost. And many people would be able to access. So for us,
unfortunately, we are out of time.
Unfortunately,
we are out of time. I'm going to come back to you for your closing remarks. But Nandi, how can the whole implementation system of EMA grants be strengthened? Just briefly.
As SASSA, how we seek to strengthen that is by increasing our footprint and making sure that there's full access for people, as she says, in a hybrid form. We know the effects of COVID. We're still suffering from those up to today. It has increased our numbers. Like right now, we've got almost 8.5 million people who are applying only for this 350 grant. So it tells you the need on the ground for SASSA services, not only for 350 grant, but an array of other services. So by increasing the footprint, we're increasing access. However, as a DSD cluster, we seek to empower abantu, especially the youth, getting them into the job markets and making sure that they're able to interact within that working space to be able to generate incomes.
Okay. Thandiwe, your thoughts on how the implementation process can be strengthened?
Yeah, I think we need an effective and efficient system that would enable people to easily access and easily interact with the system. The second thing, I think I can't emphasize more, the hybrid system, that one we need. And then also in terms of a responsive system. And I think what also needs to come in, issue yama dates. Let's have fixed dates for people to know, Guti, my next SRD amount is going to be on this day. The other thing is communication.
We're out of time, unfortunately. But thank you so much, ladies, for joining us. A very fruitful discussion we've been having. All the best, hey. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kwanyalo ngibukele sesifike emaphethelweni ehlelo lethu namhla ngithika ngibonge ivakashi lethu ngekuba nathi kuze kube manje ngithanza ukubonga kanye nani ngibabukeli ubukela ke lolu hlelo asihlangane futhi ngesikhathi lesitako lapho ke sizabe sinilethela ke lenye indzaba letawuthinza wena namalungelo akho njengemthengi la ku SABC 1 Mzansi for sure utasithola futhi na ku SABC Plus. From me Simphiwe Ncongwane and the rest of the team, size ke nitsale kahle and do have a great week ahead. Cheers.
Lakho